In 2005, Japanese archaeologists uncover a hidden cache of letters buried deep within the volcanic rock of Iwo Jima. These letters are not just historical documents. They are the last words, the final thoughts, and the haunting memories of the Japanese soldiers who fought and died there 60 years earlier. This discovery opens a window into one of World War II's most brutal battles, but seen from a perspective rarely shown in Western cinema. This is the story told in Clint Eastwood's 2006 masterpiece, Letters from Iwo Jima. It serves as a companion piece to his other film, Flags of Our Fathers, which depicted the same battle from the American side. Together, they paint a powerful and heartbreaking picture of the human cost of war, reminding us that on both sides of any conflict, there are just people with families, fears, and hopes for a future they may never see. Our story begins in late 1944. The war in the Pacific is turning decisively against Japan. The island of Iwo Jima, a desolate volcanic rock, has become a critical strategic point. For the Americans, it's a necessary stepping stone for launching air raids on the Japanese mainland. For Japan, it is the last line of defense, a sacred piece of home soil that must be protected at all costs. Into this grim setting arrives Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kurebayashi. Unlike many of his peers in the Imperial Japanese Army, Kurebayashi is a worldly, pragmatic, and compassionate leader. He has spent time in America and understands its industrial might and the sheer force that is about to descend upon his command. He knows that a traditional, glorious banzai charge on the beaches would be a suicidal waste of lives. Instead, Kurebayashi devises a radical new strategy. He orders his men to abandon the coastal defenses and move inland. Their mission is to turn the entire island into a fortress, a massive, interconnected network of underground tunnels, caves, and bunkers carved directly into the volcanic rock of Mount Suribachi. The plan isn't to win. Kurebayashi knows victory is impossible. The plan is to hold out for as long as they can to inflict maximum casualties, and to delay the inevitable American advance, buying precious time for the mainland to prepare. This strategy is deeply unpopular with his more traditionalist officers. They see it as cowardly, a betrayal of the Bushido code that demands a heroic, honorable death in open battle. But Kurebayashi stands firm, driven by a desire to make his men's lives count for something more than a feudal gesture. He tells them, "Your lives were given to you by your parents. We have no right to throw them away." This sentiment is the heart of the film. Through these unfolding events, we meet Seigo, a simple baker who was conscripted into the army, leaving behind his pregnant wife. Seigo is not a warrior. He's just a man who wants to survive and go home to see his child. He represents the common soldier, caught in the gears of a war he doesn't understand, surrounded by fanatics who crave death while he desperately clings to life. His perspective is our main window into the daily suffering and quiet desperation of the garrison. He and his friend Kashiwara dig tunnels day and night, complaining about the lack of food, the volcanic fumes, and the hopelessness of their situation. Another key figure is Baron Nishi, a famous Olympic gold medalist in equestrian sports. Like Kurebayashi, Nishi is an aristocrat who has traveled the world and even met Hollywood celebrities. He's charismatic and respected by his men. In one of the film's most poignant scenes, his unit captures a wounded American Marine. Instead of executing him, Nishi orders his medic to treat the soldier's wounds, and then engages him in a gentle conversation, using a letter from the Marine's mother to find common ground. It's a brief, beautiful moment of shared humanity in the middle of hell, showing that empathy can exist even between mortal enemies. As the American invasion begins, the film's tone shifts from tense preparation to outright horror. The naval bombardment is terrifying, shaking the very foundations of the island. The soldiers huddled in their tunnels can only listen as the world above is torn apart. Kurebayashi's strategy proves brutally effective at first. The Americans, expecting a fight on the beaches, are instead drawn into a nightmarish labyrinth of hidden machine gun nests and mortar positions. But the American advantage in numbers and firepower is overwhelming. Day by day, the Japanese defenders are pushed back, their tunnel network systematically destroyed by flamethrowers and explosives. Food, water, and ammunition dwindle. The soldiers suffer from dysentery and malnutrition. The disciplined force begins to break down. The film unflinchingly portrays the psychological toll. We see soldiers, driven by despair and indoctrination, choosing suicide with grenades rather than surrender. An officer, unable to cope with the failure to hold his position, commits seppuku in a ritual suicide. It is a grim depiction of an ideology that values death over dishonor. Seigo, however, refuses to give up. He survives cave-ins, friendly fire, and the constant threat of being discovered. His will to live is a powerful counterpoint to the death cult embraced by some of his comrades. He is ordered by his fanatical superior, Lieutenant Ito, to join a suicidal charge, but Seigo sees it as pointless and manages to escape, choosing life over a meaningless death. Kuribayashi watches his command disintegrate. He writes his final letters home to his wife and son, filled with love, regret, and sketches of the home he's designing for them. These letters, which give the film its title, reveal the man behind the uniform, a loving father and husband forced to preside over a massacre. He expresses his deep sorrow for the young men dying under his command, knowing their sacrifice will ultimately be in vain. In the final days of the battle, with only a handful of men left, Kuribayashi decides to lead one last, desperate counterattack. It's not a banzai charge, but a final, organized effort to disrupt the American command. Before he goes, he orders Seigo to burn all remaining documents and letters, including his own, to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. Seigo, seeing the futility, instead buries the sack of letters, the very sack that will be discovered 60 years later. During the chaotic final assault, Kuribayashi is severely wounded. A loyal aide carries him to a secluded spot with a view of the sea. Knowing the end is near, Kuribayashi makes one last request. He pulls out his American-made Colt 1911 pistol, a gift from a friend during his time in the States, and asks his aide to bury him where no one will find his body. Then, as American patrols close in, he takes his own life. His final act is one of quiet dignity, a soldier's end on his own terms. Seigo witnesses this from a distance. Soon after, he is discovered by an American patrol. Exhausted and defeated, he attempts to fight back with a small shovel but is knocked unconscious and taken prisoner. He awakens on a stretcher, looking up at the American flag flying over Mount Suribachi. The battle for Iwo Jima is over. He has survived. The film then returns to the present day, with the archaeologists carefully examining the letters that Seigo buried. As they handle these fragile pieces of paper, we hear the voices of the soldiers reading their final words to their families. Words of love, apology, and longing. The camera pans across the black sand beaches of Iwo Jima, now silent and peaceful. Letters from Iwo Jima is more than just a war movie. It's a profound statement on the universal nature of humanity. By showing us the enemy as fathers, sons, and husbands, Eastwood strips away the politics and propaganda, forcing us to confront the shared tragedy of war. It reminds us that history is not just about battles and strategies, but about the individual lives that are forever changed and all too often lost.